Good evening. This is a workshop for the Town of Raymond Planning Board on Thursday, January 27th, 2022. It is not an official meeting, therefore we're not going to go through the roll call or the quorum or the opening remarks. There will be a little banner up for anyone that is interested in the ordinances that are being reviewed. And we certainly would like your comments if you have any more questions while we go through this. Other than that, I think reduction of minimum setbacks is the first one. Alex, are you up on that one?
Yeah, I can start with that.
Okay.
So you guys should have the updated document I sent over this afternoon that's highlighted with changes from last time.
Is that in the email?
Yep, it's in the email that I had sent earlier today. Give you a sec to pull that up if you don't have it. I can screen share too if you guys want, like I did last time, if that's helpful or not. I don't know, it's tough with all the text.
That would probably be good though, so people that are watching could see it too.
Yep. Sandy, can you make me host again for a minute so I can change that?
Yeah, Alex, because I did not get it.
You didn't get the email this afternoon?
Nope. If it came from you?
Yeah, that's what he was talking about a few minutes ago when he said the reminder, because I just said a reminder, the meeting's tonight at 6.
Well, let's see if it's up. You're in my spam.
Well, that's not good, Kevin. I'm going to spam. That's all right.
Well, that's Bob's spam, not our spam.
Yeah, I guess he's got a really good filter.
So I'll report you as not spam.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I think the term Kevin uses is whitelist me. You want to whitelist me.
Whitelist.
So, did you make me a host, Sandy? Looks like you're muted.
She's got a bunch of stuff in spam. Okay.
I'm trying to find where I do that from, Alex. It's the 3 dots, right?
Yep, just hover over me and the 3 dots will pop up, and then if you click those, there should be an option to make me a host.
Yep, there it is. I knew it had something to do with the 3 dots. And there you go, you got it.
All right. All right, so I will share. All right, so this is the updated version I sent out today. And we do have David Murch, the chair of the ZBA, here as well. So if we want to hear from him, it looks like he is available. But so I did talk with the town attorney on this proposed change, and one thing that he suggested doing was taking the land use ordinance variance process for a single family dwelling with reduced hardship criteria and actually applying that to the shoreline zone. So what I've changed in this document from last time is 2 things. We've added that to the shoreland, but we've also added this section here, which is, you'll see it accepts Article 6B 1C, which is the other section, which really all it is, I think I explained last time, is it has one less bullet point you need to meet for hardship. It's supposed to make it easier for a single family dwelling. So I put that in here, and I did send this off to the attorney to look at once I've kind of updated these changes, and I haven't heard back from him yet, but that's kind of where we're at on this.
Okay.
So I don't think we really need any feedback on that one because you guys said last time that it didn't really apply to you much, so it didn't really matter as long as the attorney was okay with the changes, and we would put it on without a recommendation, if I recall correctly.
That was it. That's, let's go.
David, well, actually, Bob, since we're allowing public comment, I don't know who we have here, but David, is there anything that you want to add to that? I know I haven't sent you this most recent change that included your other catch, the change to 1B, but I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add.
No, from what I'm seeing here, it looks good and would be beneficial to us on the ZBA.
Okay, excellent.
Okay.
So next was the solar. And we talked about adding something in the first paragraph so that it was clear that all solar energy systems need to be reviewed, but they don't all need site plan review by the planning board. So I added this, which we can still change. It was just kind of a quick addition to that last sentence, which I don't even think Jim's seen that one yet. And then we also had some comments from the fire chief and fire inspector, and Wayne is here if he wants to comment on that, but we added in some text based on his input.
It was clarification on that process, and just letting folks know that that water supply issue would be one of the items that we would look at based on the project. So that's what the chief and I came up with language for that section.
And I think that was the rest of the changes for that section. If I remember correctly. Yeah. Did you guys have anything else that you have seen in that or thoughts on that? All right.
Good.
You want me to move on to the next one, Bob?
Yes.
Okay. So
Sorry, I
the
was
next-
reading.
yeah, that's fine. The next one was the one that had two options originally, and I've gotten rid of that second got rid of the first option and left it with the second option. And Wayne did have a comment, and Wayne, I changed it a little bit. I actually just changed it to all conditional use applications shall be reviewed. All of the conditional uses in most situations, I'm pretty sure all of the situations, would require some type of site plan application. I'm not sure though if they all would, so I think it makes sense to just put in as part of the conditional use process, because this goes through ZBA, it doesn't come through you guys, that the fire department has the ability to I guess provide comment at least on this, because the ZBA is making a finding that it's not going to overburden those services, but without really checking in with the fire department, how do we know?
Okay.
And that's it for that one. This was the changes to definitions for structure.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the comments last time was how we handle corner lots. So I did take a stab at adding some language to lot frontage based on the attorney's opinion in 2020, because I did run into this issue in 2020. Yeah, 2020. And there's a section in the ordinance that applies in the commercial zone, and it is the text that I've added down here with the red underline. That's in the ordinance already. So all I did was take that and add it to this. And if anyone has any other thoughts or ideas, I know I mentioned it last time, but some towns use the front line is where your driveway, whichever road that your driveway is on for a corner lot. But since this is already in the ordinance, I just took it and put it into this. And then the only other change that I've made on this one so far is I did add to boundary walls 4 feet or less in height, because that was something I picked up at the last meeting as well. Any thoughts on those? Or
Yeah, Alex, I had a question on the lot frontage, and this is more of a code enforcement, I guess, jurisdiction, but if you have a lot and say it happens from time to time where you have a lot that, I don't know, it's horseshoe shaped, or so it has two different segments on a road, or a segment on one road and a segment on another road, do you combine that lot frontage to determine the total lot frontage, or in the case of a corner lot, would you only measure it on the more traveled lot?
for frontage, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe there is something somewhere in here that refers to it as a lot line, not lines. Yeah, if you look at this definition, it uses line and not lines anywhere. So one thing that I've heard used in that situation is, that's singular. So it should be calculated as one line. But I think it might make sense. I think where you're headed with this is, do we expand upon that now while we've got this cut open?
Right.
And put something in there on that. I think that's a great idea.
So Alex, I'm just kind of looking at this and thinking where the driveway is, that's typically where we're gonna, or how we're gonna address it. Like 48, whatever the name of the road is gonna be where the driveway is. And I'm just a little concerned about an emergency call if we're considering the front of the property on the other road. I just hope it doesn't cause confusion.
No, that's a good point.
I think for 911, they typically go to the side that where the front door is facing or where the driveway is facing. But we have circumstances, and I've seen it before, where we have frontage on one road, but we might have an access easement through another property or through another road because it's just easier to gain access to the lot that way. So, but I think 911 and access and numbering is different than determining lot frontage.
Yeah, and I'll actually use an example. We met with someone today in the office that's looking to buy some land from someone on Egypt Road, I believe, and the lot would be pretty large, and they would actually use Egypt Road as their frontage, but they would access where they would build the house through a common shared driveway. So Egypt Road would be their frontage, and their address would actually have a different road name because they would be using a shared common driveway, kind of like almost like a back lot, but not really. And so that would be a situation where if you use the line where the driveway would be, it would make things a little weird. It wouldn't be as clean, I guess you could say.
Okay, makes sense.
But for E911, they're still going to use that driveway. E911 doesn't really care where the front of the lot is. They just really care where the driveway is.
Yeah, I think that makes sense now. Thanks.
Okay, so Jim, we can look at that and possibly expand on the line versus lines thing. I think that's a good point.
It happens from time to time, and when it does, we kind of all we'll go, oh, we should have looked at this differently. So we've got it open. We can consider it now. So
yeah, like on a hammerhead, that comes up a lot.
Yep, exactly.
Do you count all the edges? This one we've already done. It was an easy one.
Can I just for a sec? David Mertz. I can't figure out how to raise my hand here. So I apologize. I just know that from a ZBA perspective, we get a lot of setback requests, and who's going to determine like the front, I recognize that the corner lots, it's going to be whichever is the most heavily traveled, but what if there's some debate about that? It's going to eventually come to us, and they can get more of a setback from one direction than the other. I guess ultimately who makes the decision is what's the front and what's the sides, or what if it changes over time? What if one road becomes busier than the other? You know,
Yeah.
5 years ago it was one road A, and now 5 years later is road B.
Good question.
I would normally, I defer to the code officer to make that determination. And then that's, and then I'm serious, but I mean, whether he defers to me, but it's ultimately, his interpretation first. And then if somebody wants to appeal it, obviously they can do that. But, I think most of the time it's pretty black and white. I don't think we have too many cases where, because usually it's a private road off a public road. Obviously the public road is the one there. If you're on a major route 302 or a major route, that's pretty clear. It doesn't happen too often, occasionally, I guess, but it's pretty limited when we have two, I'll call them public roads of the same size and intensity, I guess. But
Well, I can think of an example. And David, thank you. You always catch these ones. And it is a good point. Rolling Brook, I could see, for example, that subdivision, you have Rolling Brook Road, and then you have Bracken Woods, and there are two corner lots. And I guess the question would be which lot is heavier, more heavily traveled. And I would say Rolling Brook is, because it has more houses on it, I think, I'm pretty sure. That may be the way you look at it, is just the density of the road compared to Bracken Woods, which is kind of the dead end. But that is a good question. I think it probably, in most situations, would end up being the code officer opinion determination. And then if an applicant doesn't agree, then maybe it would be, an administrative appeal to the ZBA. But I think that would come up in variances. That would probably be, if the side setback is less strict than the front setback, which most, all of them are, it might make sense for them to want to say, oh, that's a sideline and not a front line. When really it's not.
So I wonder if Department of Transportation has any good data on that sort of thing.
probably not on local roads, on like subdivision roads like this, but maybe on more connector roads they would.
But I guess both Alex, Jim, and David, if both meet the road requirements on both sides, why do we really care?
Well, it's about the front setback, I think, is what the issue starts coming from.
Right, I understand, but then it would just be whatever really the homeowner wanted.
Yeah.
If both frontages are meet the requirement, then whenever the building permit comes in, it could be the homeowner that says, this is what I want to be my front, and this is what I want my side.
Yeah, if it's too close to tell, basically you're saying they could kind of have their pick and which one they want.
Right, and if it's not too close to tell, then it has to be the one that has the road frontage.
Yeah, and most of the time, this is probably going to come up with new subdivisions where we have two roads. So I'm just wondering, I mean, typically on subdivision plans, the setbacks are established on the plan.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so the next thing, yes, was an easy one. We've already gone through that one. All right, this one we do need to kind of have, I think, a little bit more discussion on. So this is Article 4, and
Oh, Alex, before you go, do we need to go back there? Do we need to put a sentence in there that basically gives the code enforcement officer the authority to pick when both?
Yeah, I mean, we could put something in like that. Yeah.
I think that would
Um,
take care of the issue.
Yeah, and maybe we do something like code officer or review authority or whatever, because it might be something where it's a planning board application
Yep.
for a subdivision or something.
Mhm. Right,
Okay, yeah, we can add that.
okay.
So Article
Well,
4.
Can I just ask another question on that? I'm still thinking that over. And so the logic for the setbacks is what? Is it for safety? Because you're saying it's on the road? What's the logic? Why wouldn't both sides that are on a road be a road? I mean, why would they meet the same setbacks?
Yeah, where this gets wonky, Kevin, is when we have backlot driveways or private roads that come off a main road. You're basically, somebody's got a lot of background noise there.
Yeah.
What happens is that the private road, then when somebody puts in a private road, we've had several of these happen where they put in a private road, and if you take the front yard setback, it basically makes the corner lot non-conforming if there's an existing house, for one thing, but it also kind of penalizes the front owner if they are conforming. Say that they had a lot there and then a private road comes in, it kind of penalizes them for somebody else's development where, it might be 3 lots in there. Big deal. And I don't know what the actual purpose of the front lots is, other than probably just to get those buildings back for public safety purposes, and for visual aesthetics.
So that doesn't, I mean, that's kind of not understanding that, there's no real, I like to have the logic of why we
Obviously,
have
first and
different
foremost-
setbacks.
First and foremost, it's public safety, so that people pull off the main road, they can pull into their driveway. And if there was no setbacks, they couldn't pull their car off safely. So the
So
idea
it's-
is to leave room for driveways and things.
But any road would be safety. I mean, so it's like, 3 people, that we don't care if they're not safe, but it's 20 people we care if they're safe. I don't, that's
Well,
not
it's the
good
number of
logic.
trips. It's the situation you're putting somebody in, because you got a lot of traffic going through. For instance, take like the one we did for up off Raymond Hill. There was that wonky backlot driveway, ended up being a private road. I forgot the name of that one. But in that situation, you've got Raymond Hill Road, which is much busier than this private road. Well, to your point, maybe it should be just the site that the driveway comes off should be the front lot, because that's what we're concerned about, being able to get the vehicles off the road safely, so they're not sticking out in the right of way.
That's what I'm looking for. Yes, something like that. That would be more logical.
Good point.
And another point for that would be the driveway generally is where the E911 address would be, for us to be able to see that.
So Kevin, what are you thinking that it should be?
Well, I think the frontage should be where they want to put the driveway.
Well,
Right,
we got
okay.
two different things. We got 2 different things. We have lot frontage and then we have front setback.
Right.
They're 2 different things. So lot frontage is, they need a certain amount of frontage on a public way to become a conforming lot. The front setback, maybe you could say it comes off the side where the driveway is located.
So why do they, okay, so what determines that? Again, it should be, if they're gonna put a driveway in, that should be the side that should have sufficient clearance, the frontage, to be a conforming lot, in my
But it
mind.
doesn't always work that way. You end up with people who are on corner lots, and there's just weird configurations where they might have 50 feet on a side lot, and maybe a corner lot, and they're an L-shaped, flag-shaped lot, where they get the benefit of being on 2 road frontages just to make themselves conforming.
Well, maybe we should have something then to say that we need X amount of feet on a public way to have a road in, and that should be, if they conform to that, that's fine.
I think we might be digging a little too deep into this, but
Well-
maybe.
The road frontage and then the front setback would correspond. Right, so wherever the road frontage is met, that becomes the front with the
Yes.
front setback.
Yes,
You know,
yep,
Right? So if
Yep.
you have the road frontage met on two sides, then you get to pick your side. But you still have a front setback on the side that you're calling your front. Am I missing something?
Well, I thought we were trying to make it, it's a safety issue. So as long as they have, the front of the lot becomes where the road goes in, and then that has to have the enough setback and distance to be safe.
Right, I see. So, so what you're saying is the driveway has to be on the front of the house, on the front setback. But you
If it
couldn't really, right?
If it qualifies, right, it has to be
Yeah.
on a qualifying safe side.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's what it says.
Well, yeah, but it appears to be if you had enough frontage on one side and you didn't have enough frontage on another side, the lot would be qualifying. You could still put your driveway on the unqualified side, just as long as you're metering the setbacks, which doesn't make it safe.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it sounds like we're back to having the frontage, both the frontage and the front setback be on the same line as where the driveway goes in.
Correct.
Is that what you mean, Kevin?
I think that makes it more logical and safe.
I can tell you in Casco, that's how our ordinance was written. I didn't have any issues with it. Occasionally, you'd have some funky situations arise, but you know, it worked okay there.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
in that case, in the scenario we're working with, then a corner lot would just have two frontages, two front setbacks.
Which also
Only the one
depends.
the one they choose, if it qualifies, would become the front setback.
Yeah, but if it didn't, if they have to use both, then they have to use the front setback from both.
Right.
I would say that only the one that they're gonna put their driveway on.
But let's
That one
say it's just say this scenario, say the road frontage requirement's 200 feet and they have 150 feet on one road and 50 feet on another road. So they have 200 feet of road frontage, but they don't have one dominant, they don't have all of it on one road or the other. In that case, they'd have to have the front yard setback off
Oh,
both
that's
roads.
interesting.
Yes, but what's the distance that we're gonna say is safe to put a
It'd be the front
driveway on?
yard setback, it'd be the front yard setback.
No, in length also. There's no length.
No, you measure.
Yeah,
the
we have
entire length.
we have a minimum frontage requirement for each zone. You know, so like 225, 300 feet. I mean, I think personally, if I had to have, my preference would be to have it be a single lot line so that you don't end up with short corners and stuff like that. That way you have to have 225 feet on a single line, point to point, in order to have a legal lot with frontage instead of having, jogs and turns and stuff like that. It just makes it a little bit messier, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think having a corner lot where the example Jim just stated, where you have 150 feet on one line and then 90-degree angle following the other road, 50 feet, to me, they don't have enough frontage. To me, they need that 200 feet that goes as a straight line on one side or the other.
I don't, 'cause I do a lot of plan development. I don't necessarily agree with that because we have a lot of roads with curves on them. And we always use the curved frontage on those lots for the lot line. They're long curves. I mean, they're just slight bends, but they're still curved. They're not a straight line.
Well, I think that I misspoke. I didn't mean it has to be a perfectly straight line, but it has to be a line that is abutting one road.
You mean
Rather than being able to-
a continuous line, basically.
Kevin, does
Yeah,
that make more sense?
It's
Yeah, that
currently in
makes
there.
sense.
Right now, it's currently in there.
Yeah.
Here it says irregular or curved front lot line, the distance along an imaginary straight line connecting the two ends.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yep.
I almost think that, the way we have it, we probably should just leave it in that red section. We probably should just take out because it seems to be making more confusion than not. So basically, if you're on a corner lot, to me, if you're on a corner lot, the easiest way for Alex to handle this is just say both, you got to take the front setback off of both roads.
And we can do that. Some towns do that. Then we probably would need to find where it says this in the ordinance and strike it out and change it to requiring the front setback on both, unless we want to keep that just for the commercial zone, our commercial district, so that they don't have to meet the front on the side, because the intent with the commercial district is smaller lots with no setbacks, which I don't even think we have a front setback. So it might not really be a big deal, but
We go in the commercial zone.
yeah, so I don't know why it's somewhere in the commercial district standards, I believe, from what I can remember Phil saying, but I can look at that and we'll figure something out.
Right.
All right,
Right,
so
move
we'll
on.
we'll work on that one a little. Okay, so yeah, we're back to Article 4 again. So this is the one where we need to decide of the new uses we've created where you want to allow them. And do we want to make either of them conditional uses or just have them be permitted uses through the planning board?
I would think the one in the shoreline zone that we might want to make conditional is solar energy systems, just because the amount of clearing they take on a lot is pretty massive.
So the way it works in the shoreland zone, that's the table. And I don't believe we have it set up for conditional uses.
You have no.
It's all
for
planning
solar-
board.
Oh, planning board. But it goes to planning board.
Right,
They don't have conditional uses in the shoreline zone, right, for uses?
As far as I know off the top of my head, I just know this is the way it's set up.
Yep, no, then I would say keep it in planning board. And that way they can determine all the factors that go into the clearing and everything, because they still have to fall, right? If they put a solar system in the shoreline zone, they still have to fall under the same categories as cleared lands and impervious surfaces and all that.
Yeah, it would still need to meet the requirements of the district. So yeah, you would still need to follow that.
That in itself is going to make it difficult unless somebody has a really massive shoreline zoning lot.
Yeah, right, exactly. So village residential, and what I did is I just put them both in all of them. And if there are somewhere you guys don't want to allow, we can take them out. Or if you want to make outdoor storage not allowed, because one of the things we talked about last time was defining outdoor storage, which is different than outdoor sales and service. Outdoor storage we could define and not actually allow anywhere, just to have a definition.
have we defined it?
There is a definition later on, yeah.
Okay. Why don't we-
Shouldn't that
Or
be?
you,
Okay,
My thought was that should be in the commercial and industrial zones. I don't know if it belongs in a residential zone, but there
Yep.
again, I don't know, if somebody's got an automotive shop or something in the residential zone, or I don't know, if they got a small motor shop, I mean, is that allowed in the residential zone? I can't.
no, I don't think it is.
So to me, the outdoor storage should be really, to me, ideally should be in the industrial and commercial zones.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that.
that makes sense.
Okay. And solar energy systems for rural and village residential.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't
You
see.
think that's okay?
Yep,
Okay. So that's those two. And then we have rural residential.
Yep.
Same thing, we'll strike out outdoor storage.
Yep.
And then commercial.
Yep, allow both.
Do you want to allow both, or do you want to put outdoor storage as a conditional use?
Oh, that could be up to the board. What do we have now? Conditional, we have outdoor sales and service, right, as conditional use?
Yep.
It kind of goes with that to a certain extent, so maybe it should be a conditional use.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah,
So how is outdoor storage defined? I mean, what does it allow?
Eh,
Well, we'll get there.
Page
I
down
can
a little
scroll
bit.
down right now if you want. I believe it's the last one.
7, number 7.
Is it 7? Okay.
Yeah, 7.
Right here. Since last time I've added the words "the commercial" and "for a fee," because one of the things you guys really didn't like last time was having it be a definition that would apply to residential properties or residential storage of stuff for, personal use, which is, of course, wasn't the intent. The intent was it, for it to be a commercial outdoor storage for money. So that's all I did on that.
So how do we keep it from being like super junky or like way too much stuff?
Well, I think if you get into motor vehicles, Alice can answer that. I think there's a limitation on motor vehicles before it becomes a junkyard, so.
Yeah, if they're doing it, if they're storing vehicles, boats, RVs, they need to, essentially, they can't be, they must be registered, they must be inspected, and, they can't be beyond repair, essentially. And there is a definition through the state that we have in our ordinance that would apply to that. I think you're right. It could get a little difficult. The lines could be blurred between outdoor storage and junkyard.
But remember, if we're allowing outdoor storage, it's going to be a conditional use, and with that, you could put provisions on how to, conceal that or buffer that from public view too, depending on where the
Yes.
use is.
Yes.
Yeah, it
what-
seems like we need to have something where we could protect exactly what Jim just said, protect the view.
Well, that would fall under when you review it for conditional use.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would go through conditional use, and then it would need site plan approval as well, because it's a non-residential use. So, at that point, all the site plan conditions would still apply, site plan criteria.
Okay.
So Alex, this is again where we would treat this like we are with the outdoor sales
Yes.
as far as the review process.
Yep. Which would be, that's where you guys would have your ability to chime in, because it would go through site plan like any other application. The fire department would weigh in on the application.
And the
And
other,
you would in the conditional use approval process as well.
and my other question is, I know the board had talked a little bit about containers. Is this going to be a permitted item in this outdoor storage area?
We have a shipping container section already, and I believe they are allowed it might be industrial only. Can't remember. Shipping containers, not permitted in a residential zoning district. It's subject to site plan review. I mean, I don't know. I don't think, just based on the definition that we have, I don't know that I would necessarily say that could include shipping containers, but I suppose
We haven't excluded them either.
yeah, that's a good point. Might be a good idea to do something like that.
Just if I could chime in from a ZBA perspective, I see temporary structures, so I would
Mhm.
I would look at that as a shipping container.
Oh, okay.
So does a shipping container become not a shipping container if it has a permanent foundation?
Yeah, there's actually a provision under shipping containers that a property owner may apply for a shipping container permit to temporarily locate a single shipping container on the lot in a residential zoning district for a period not to exceed 6 months.
Well, I guess my question is, if you put it on a permanent foundation, is it then not considered a shipping container?
You mean,
So if somebody builds a shop or something and it has all the siding and it looks just like a shipping container, but it's on a permanent foundation. If it's structurally,
Yeah, to me,
you
if
know what
it-
I'm getting at? If somebody puts a
Mhm.
shipping container, makes it permanent, is that not fall under those regulations?
so like foundation, I would think it would be an accessory structure at that point.
Yeah, but then it becomes a small home.
They
No, it could
could,
be- it could
because
be a
they
shed.
are doing that now. That's kind of where I'm getting
Well, I mean,
at.
it could be,
Oh.
well, if it comes a home, it has to be in a whole bunch of different building
Right,
codes.
right,
clearly.
right.
But if it's an accessory structure, though, it has a door and it's a shed, you know, how do we control that? I mean, somebody could build a box for a shed too, so. I
Right.
mean, once it's on a
Right.
foundation, it's a structure. Luckily, we haven't had a lot of applications yet for container buildings, but I have personally worked on one, so.
You have worked on one?
Yeah, it was out on an island and the gentleman made it into an art studio.
No.
He'd been better off if he stick built it, because what it cost to put it in was pretty amazing.
Wow.
It was just getting it to the island and then getting it up a hill and moving it in place and getting it on a foundation. It was a lot of work.
All right, so where are we? We're okay with the definition? We're okay with where we're putting them?
Yeah, and Alex, I like the additions you added to the outdoor storage for commercial and for fee. I think that really kind of channels it down to what we were looking for before.
All right, good. Yeah, I think that is pretty much it. We talked about shoreland. Obviously, we probably don't want to allow outdoor storage in the shoreland.
Well, we gotta be careful. What what do you do with marinas or boat sales?
Well, it would be considered a marina. The marina definition does include storage of boats and trailers. So, and that's how this all came about, was because a marina wanted to expand into the commercial zone and they couldn't, it wasn't allowed.
So if it's marine related, then it falls on the marina?
Yeah.
I don't think we have many scenarios of that happening anyway. I think the only other one we have, Alex, that we are still waiting on for Phil is where and how do we put the view shed scenic vista guidelines together into the ordinance, and we're waiting on him for that, right?
Yeah, I did ask how that's going to work or what he thinks. Did I copy you? I think I copied you on the email. Did I not? Maybe I didn't.
No.
So I basically asked what he suggests, what other towns are doing, how our guidelines should be amended, or if we could create new guidelines. I just basically asked what his thoughts were on that, and what he suggests we do. So I haven't heard back yet. I got his automatic reply that he was tied up with something, so I'm assuming I'll probably hear back tomorrow or early next week.
Did you forward that packet of guidelines to him, or?
I don't think I did. I basically led on that there is a packet that we want to essentially use, but I didn't send it yet because I didn't want him to get too into the weeds before he got back to me, and didn't want him to take too much time on it, to be honest.
Okay.
Just yet.
No, that's fine. But you know, the sign guidelines fall into that same category. I don't know if we ever did anything officially other than say we're going to use it.
Right, and that's the problem with the guidelines. There are things in the guidelines that our ordinance supersedes. You know, there's things in there about parking lots and pedestrian connectivity, but our ordinance already supersedes. Signs is another one. We have a sign ordinance, but there are recommendations in there for how we want signs to look. So, you know, I mean, these guidelines are what now? They're getting upwards of 20 years old. So
Yep.
maybe it's, you know, maybe to your point, Bob, maybe it's just time for a good old overhaul of the guidelines.
Well, they don't really go through any process that I can remember.
No, they're guidelines, and we just say, please tell us how you adopted them into your design, or you know, so that the board at least has some comfort level that you at least considered them. We don't have any authority to demand they meet the guidelines.
Right.
That's the problem with them. But yet they've been placed in the ordinance that they have to be addressed. So it's
Yeah.
not really authoritative. We don't have any real hard, enforcement of it, but would you please look at those and say you adopted some of those, please?
And like you said, some of them are outdated and some of them are been superseded.
Right.
So it doesn't, the older ones anyway, don't seem to be a working document anymore.
I think the two areas where these guidelines are mostly used is with architecture and landscaping. I think those are the two areas that we really, because lighting, we basically adopt lighting standards. Signage, we have signing standards. Site planning, that is our ordinance. It's all based on site planning. So it's really architecture and landscaping are the two big components that we usually run into with the guidelines.
So maybe it's time to move some of that stuff to the ordinance and delete out the guidelines completely.
Yeah, and I think the other thing we've heard with the architecture is, is everyone sold that we want exclusively New England style architecture, and what does New England style architecture even mean?
Right.
I think you can take things out of that, and I'm dealing with this right now in the town of Poland, where they've got their own downtown standards and they're facing the same dilemma. We want these things, but we don't want them so restrictive that we restrict people from coming in and wanting to redevelop in the commercial district or in that case their village districts. So how do we do that? And we want a blend of architecture and a blend of landscaping. But if you've got a beautiful building with great architecture, do you want to blind it with landscaping so no one can see it from the public way? No. But if you've got a slightly uglier building that doesn't have a lot of aesthetics to it, well, then you'd want to hide it maybe a little bit more. So I kind of thought that maybe the way you have to do that is maybe there's some kind of point system where you give high points if you do a lot of architecture, and then you can back off the landscaping and vice versa. If you have not so attractive architecture, you have to bolster it with more landscaping. And maybe there's a point system or something in there you can adopt. But I mean, that's something that's going to take a little bit of time to develop. I don't think we have necessarily the time to finalize anything like that. But to your point, maybe it's just something we have to run up the flagpole. I don't know if it goes to I don't know how this even got into. Was this through the planning board or was this adopted by the selectmen? Do you know, Alex?
No clue. That's what I asked Phil was, there doesn't say anything in the guidelines on how they're amended, how they're added. Are they, voted on by the select board? Is it a town meeting vote? I mean, it's not an ordinance. So I asked for guidance on that.
The guidelines came from a study that was done by a guy who lived over
Terry
in
DeWine.
I'm sorry?
Terry DeWine did it.
Yeah, that's it, Greg. Thanks, Greg.
Oh, I remember it all well. It was not meant to have teeth. That's the way it was.
So
That's the way it was meant to be.
we sat through hours and hours of those presentations, and the end result was a packet that we just said we'd accept this as guidelines. All right, is my understanding correct, Greg? My memory?
Yes.
Yeah. So we never did anything with it really other than that.
And
Right.
that's fine. But I think the problem is that we've got it inserted into, it is referenced into our ordinance. So
Right.
like you said, I don't think we can deny somebody on it. So I don't know what the teeth is. I guess it's a suggestive tool, I guess, more than anything.
Well, so should we remove that portion from the ordinance then? I mean, we don't use it. Do we really use it at all?
When we're in the commercial zone, I always make people, as painstaking as it is, I make them at least address a narrative of how they considered this document.
And that's more of a CYA because it's in our ordinance.
Correct.
I mean,
So
to
I'll
me,
let
if-
you.
to me, if you've got guidelines that we have no powers to enforce, I mean, to me, they're just causing confusion. I almost think we'd be better off getting rid of any guidelines that we don't want to try to enforce and bring over those that we do into the ordinance somehow. Not tonight, but
Well,
someday.
no, but we certainly could do a very quick ordinance that just removes that from our ordinance, that frees us up from sending people to look at things that they don't really need to pay any attention to. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Is it that easy?
I think it's that easy. I mean, it's not in too many places in our ordinance. I think it's only under site plan review for those in the commercial district.
Because other than the presentations, that the planning board sat through, nobody else has really said yay or nay on any of those things. So I'm wondering if we really should even have it in the ordinance if we, without it officially being adopted, I guess is what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
It could be just another, recommended packet that could, be available at the town office as suggestions for people, who are interested in how we want to do it. But at the same token, like I just said, the architecture says it has to be New England style. And I think that's always a problem with this board and other boards that, don't want to be handcuffed to one type of architecture.
And could we just do the same thing with the site guidelines? And just have them available as a supplemental piece of information.
Right. And I guess that's the question. But then to your point, Bob, when we get into a situation like you did, and we have to make a determination about, how did we meet a certain standard with regards to scenic impacts, what do we lean on as far as did we address it?
Well, isn't this something the comprehensive plan should address? And then depending on what that comes out of that gives what the community really wants. And then you would either include it in ordinances that we develop or not. To me, the comprehensive plan should drive something like that.
Yeah, the issue with that is I think our comp plan is outdated as well.
Well, they're trying to start one up right now, a new one.
Well, yeah, okay. So you're basically saying defer it to the comp plan and let them lead the guide. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, that's basically what Poland did. It came about, their current study of it came about during their comp plan. So you're kind of the same process.
Okay,
Yeah, I like that.
that makes sense.
Well, I'll let you know at least what Phil says on that. Maybe he'll come back with a little bit more information. He seems to have a lot of the history on our older documents and stuff. So I'll let you know there. But on that, there was one more I was going to try and slide in to see what you guys thought. But before I do anything, I might maybe just ask you now and see if it's even worth looking into. But Aroma Joe's submitted a permit for their signs. And Jim and I have already kind of gone over this one, but basically they're over on what's allowed for signage if we include their menus as signs. And originally when I looked at it, I felt my opinion based on the definition was that the menus should be considered signs. Jim disagreed, as did Chris. So of course I went to another code officer who agreed with me, and then I went to Phil who also agreed with me. So the attorney's opinion is the menus based on our definition are considered signs, and they count because the way it's written in our ordinance, you can only have so much signage based on how much road frontage you have. Which then you factor in the changes to road frontage that could also affect that down the road as well. But anyways, so I was curious if you guys had any thoughts on that. Do you want to try and define menu? Because menus are not defined in our ordinance. We could make a menu board. We have a sandwich board, but we could make a menu board sign definition and exempt them if you want, or we could leave it as is and they'll have to just deal with it and reduce their signage.
I just have one question. When we have drive-throughs, because this only comes up when we have drive-throughs, what do we have for definitions of drive-through? Do we allow a menu sign board for a drive-through?
I don't think we have a definition.
Well,
That's the only time it comes up.
I would say from sitting through those sign presentations, I'd say that we really do want to reduce the size, or at least limit the size of signs along 302. So I would go along with what you say, Alex, is that the venue is included in the sign and they're going to have to reduce it.
mean, the
Well,
way I
just-
looked at it was if that property abuts a residential property, typically the menus are going to be on the side or facing the sidelines. If that big lit up menu board is facing a residential property, there should be some screening there by, site plan requirements, but still, I mean, at night, they're going to have that lit up screen facing their, and now all the menus are turning into the LED screens.
Right.
So they're very,
Yeah, I almost think that we should have a definition for drive-through signage, because that's the only place we see these menus. But the other question is, okay, say you have like an ice cream shop or something, and you have the menu board posted on the wall. Is that a sign?
it's a great question. It does happen. And I don't want to say I opened Pandora's box, but I kind of feel like that's what's happened with this one.
I think I agree with Jim. I think we need a separate thing to address menus because like you're saying, LED panels aren't, if you don't say at nighttime, you got to turn down the, intensity or something, it's definitely needs its own section.
I mean, I guess I'm having trouble distinguishing a menu board, that the language from a sign. I mean, what the heck is a sign? So to me, it's a sign, but maybe not.
What you're saying is a sign is a sign.
I think so.
But I do
All right,
think.
did I help you, Alex?
One measure, one.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask this question then too, Alex, and I'm just trying to educate the board too. If you go into a site and they have wayfinder signs through their parking lot telling you go this direction or that direction, or the drive-through's over here, is that a sign?
No, it's a navigational sign. It's considered one of our exempt signs.
Oh,
So
good.
that was the thought, was we could add an exempt sign, like there are certain signs that are not, they don't count towards the square footage. We could add a certain amount allowed for menus per lot, per frontage.
Kevin and I think, are on the same page. If we do that, then we can also reduce the size, the intensity of the lighting and everything if we do define those. And, with technology, all these signs are just going to become more and more digital just as technology increases.
Okay, so I'll keep working on that. I don't know if that's one that's going to happen for next meeting. It might end up being next year, but I'll work on that some more.
Okay. Let's see, timeline. Do we have anything else for tonight? We've done those. So we have the planning board on the 9th. Will we be up to having them all finalized by then? February 9th?
Yeah, I think that should be fine.
Okay. Then, we were looking at a public hearing. What do we have coming up in the works? Do we have lots,
You have Raymond Hills coming back,
right?
and I think that's it.
So do you think, as it looks right now, we can just do the public hearing on March 9th? On the planning board night?
Yeah.
Is
'Cause I
that,
don't know if Raymond Hills will
think
be
so.
coming back. I don't know if Raymond Hills will be coming back. They're coming in February, but I don't know if they'll be coming back in March.
okay? And you haven't heard anything else in the works?
What about that one on Raymond Cape, the one that Sebago we're actually doing? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything on that one. I don't know if you've
I
heard
think
anything.
I think they may be waiting for vernal pool season. I'm not sure.
I know you mentioned that they have a new project engineer or whatever.
I don't think that'll be, well, I can't say, but I don't think it's on the schedule for anything in March. I don't.
Okay.
think.
Okay.
Okay, Sandy, I think we were saving March 2nd, right? I think was our fallback date. So I think we could probably do away with that date now. And just
Okay.
go with 9th.
Okay, we'll do the public hearing March 9th.
Yep.
Got it.
All right, any other business? Yeah, I've got one question, pretty much more for the board, but Jim and Alex, you're certainly welcome to chime in. we have one member that really wants to stay on the board.
I was gonna
But
call you tomorrow about that.
has a very hard time actually getting to meetings.
This is the third in a row again, Bob.
Yeah, our bylaws say 3 missed meetings in a row, and the chairman, is supposed to contact, and I've done that, and
Done that
has
twice.
he's expressed a desire to stay, has shown up for a meeting and once right after that conversation, and then has now missed a series. I had the conversation again, and right after that meeting, he showed up, but has now not shown up again. So my
And we
question
do,
is-
Bob, we have people that are qualified that have applied for being on
We
planning
do.
board.
Okay,
Yes, we do.
so my question, I guess, for the board is, should I go now and say, you've got your warning once and you missed and you showed, you got your second warning and you didn't show it, now can
3
I
strikes,
ask
you're
for a
done.
resignation? Is that pretty much what you think, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to have a quorum, and if some people occasionally can't be here, we need as many people to depend on as we can. So, yeah, I think it's time.
Yeah, my thought is that I've run boards before, and if they're, it's kind of like your kids. If they're not, medically excuses, then you're absent, right?
Right.
And I haven't heard of anything, or I don't know. In some cases, I don't know if he's even notified us that he's going to be absent from the meetings, right?
No, not anymore. He used to.
So that
At least not me.
right. So unfortunately, that does kind of imply a certain level of interest or responsibility, I guess.
Okay. Kevin or Greg, do you have anything that you okay?
I mean, I'm kind of sorry that somebody, wouldn't show up, and it would be nice to have his participation, especially since we have Zoom now. It makes it fairly easy to do that. So I would think he'd want to try to make it to those meetings.
Okay. Then I'll get back in contact with him again and
Yeah,
see
I
if he
just
will,
think as any board member, if you're not going to be present at a meeting, I think it is a responsibility of you to inform the town or somebody, because you are relied on in the case that for a quorum. And if you're not there, it may jeopardize a quorum. So I think if you're not going to be attending a meeting, it's your responsibility to make sure, that the town is notified in advance, because it costs the town money and then potentially applicants money
right,
beyond the
especially if we don't have a
whole
quorum,
process.
right?
Yep.
Okay, so on that note, on the March 9th meeting, I will not be in town, but I do intend to Zoom. But I'm not sure of my internet connection where I will be. So Ed is on standby to run the meeting. So if the meeting starts and you don't see my face, it probably means I don't have an internet connection strong enough to make the connection.
Support it, yeah.
Yeah, to coordinate, okay? So,
We'll just get you on a bicycle machine so you can.
all right, is there anything else, anybody? We're all set? All right, thank you very much for attending. And see you see you when? See you pretty soon now.
February 9th.
Yeah, February 9th. Okay. Good night, guys.
What time, February 9th?
Oh, good question.
That's
That's our normal meeting time, right?
right. So I would think you would do that at 7.
Yeah, let's do that at 7. Good question, Mike.
All right.
Okay,
I'm making a note.
thanks, Yang. Night, guys.